Have you ever regretted something you said? A moment where words slipped out too fast and you wished you had stayed silent? Most people don't realize this, but silence is one of the greatest strengths you can ever develop. It's a tool that can protect your peace, command respect, and give you power over any situation. But here's the problem. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that speaking more makes us more important, that if we don't speak up, we'll be overlooked, ignored, or forgotten. But what if the opposite was true? What if the less you spoke, the more powerful your words became? If you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll discover a powerful shift in the way you think about words, silence, and influence. And once you apply it, you'll start noticing that people listen more when you say less. The illusion of words. From the moment we learn to speak, we are taught that words solve everything. That if we just say the right things, we can fix problems, win arguments, and convince others to see our point of view. But have you ever noticed that the people who talk the most are often the least respected? Think about it. In a room full of noise, whose voice holds the most power? Not the one who speaks endlessly, not the one who argues the loudest, but the one who chooses their words carefully, the one who speaks with intention and impact. Silence is uncomfortable for many. That's why most people rush to fill every quiet moment with words, even when they have nothing valuable to say. But those who master the art of silence, they control the energy of every conversation. They don't waste words. And because they don't speak often, when they do, people listen. Silence creates strength. Silence isn't weakness. It's not about being passive. It's about control. The ability to resist the urge to respond immediately, the discipline to observe before reacting, the wisdom to know that not everything requires your opinion. Many of history's greatest leaders and thinkers understood this. They didn't waste words, they used silence as a weapon, to create mystery, to gain power, and to make their words unforgettable. When you stay silent, people start wondering what you're thinking. They lean in closer when you finally decide to speak. Your words carry weight because they are rare, and in a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the one who masters silence becomes the one who is truly listened to. The psychology behind powerful silence, human psychology, tells us that scarcity increases value. What is rare becomes more desirable. And this applies to words just as much as it does to money or success. When you talk too much, you decrease the value of your words. People start tuning you out. Your opinions lose their impact. But when you hold back, when you speak only when it truly matters, your words become gold. Psychologists have also found that silence increases perceived intelligence. When you pause before responding, people assume you are thinking deeply. When you don't rush to fill the silence, others see you as more thoughtful, wise, and in control. But the real power of silence? It protects your energy. When you stay quiet, you're not wasting time defending yourself, proving a point, or engaging in meaningless debates. Instead, you conserve your mental strength. You stay calm under pressure, and you remain in control of yourself. Mastering the art of silence. So how do you start using silence to your advantage? First, practice pausing before you speak. Before answering a question, take a moment. Let there be silence. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but over time you'll notice that people will begin to respect your words more. Second, observe more than you talk. You learn nothing by speaking, but when you stay silent, you gain insight. You pick up on details that others miss. You understand situations on a deeper level. Third, don't feel the need to explain yourself all the time. Many people talk too much because they're afraid of being misunderstood. But true confidence comes from knowing you don't owe an explanation for everything. And finally, only speak when your words add value. If what you're about to say doesn't inspire, educate, or solve a problem, it's often better left unsaid. Final thought. The strength of saying nothing. There is an old saying, a lion doesn't need to roar to prove it's alive. In the same way, true strength isn't in how much you speak, but in how wisely you choose your words. If you want people to listen to you, speak less. If you want to command respect, stay silent until your words have power. If you want to master your emotions, choose silence over reaction. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Words are not just sounds. They carry weight. They shape reality. They have the power to lift someone up or tear them apart in an instant. Think about a time when someone said something that stuck with you for years. Maybe it was encouragement that gave you strength. Or maybe it was a careless insult that still lingers in the back of your mind. That's the power of words. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Psychologists have studied this deeply. Words are energy. They don't just disappear after they're spoken. They leave marks on others, on situations, and most importantly, on you. When you speak with negativity, you invite negativity into your life. When you complain, gossip, or criticize, your mind absorbs that energy. Your words shape your emotions, your mindset, and eventually your reality. But the opposite is also true. Speak with purpose and you gain power. Speak with wisdom and people trust you. Speak with kindness and you build unbreakable connections. This is why silence is so powerful. It prevents unnecessary damage. It stops words from being used recklessly. It allows you to filter your thoughts before they escape your mouth. Most people talk without thinking. They speak just to fill the silence, unaware that every word they say is building or breaking their reputation. The strongest people don't use words carelessly. They understand that once a word is released, it has the power to shape reality forever. So before you speak, ask yourself, will these words make things better, or will silence serve me more? Because every time you open your mouth, you are making a choice to create or a choice to destroy. Most people believe that talking more makes them look smarter, more important, or more influential. But in reality, the more you talk, the more you reveal, sometimes, more than you should. Talking too much weakens your words. It makes them ordinary, forgettable, and easy to ignore. When you speak constantly, people stop listening. Your voice becomes background noise. But the greatest mistake of all? Speaking before thinking. In the rush to respond, to prove a point, or to defend ourselves, we say things we don't truly mean. Words spoken in impulse often lead to regret. A single careless sentence can ruin a relationship, break trust, or make you look foolish. Silence, on the other hand, gives you power. It allows you to observe before reacting, to process before responding. It keeps you from exposing weaknesses, giving away unnecessary details, or falling into emotional traps. Psychology proves that people who speak less are seen as more confident and intelligent. Why? Because they choose their words carefully. They don't talk just to fill the air. They speak with intention. And that makes their words valuable. If you want to be respected, don't waste words. Speak only when you have something important, meaningful, and necessary to say. Otherwise, let your silence speak for you. Because the less you talk, the more people want to hear you when you finally do. There is something captivating about a person who speaks little but observes everything. Their silence isn't emptiness. It's a presence that demands attention. Human psychology tells us that people are drawn to mystery. What is unknown sparks curiosity. The less you reveal, the more others want to understand you. The less you explain, the more they respect your presence. But those who speak endlessly, they give away all their power. They leave nothing to wonder about, nothing to respect, nothing to admire. The strongest people in history have mastered this art. They don't waste their breath trying to convince others. They let their actions speak for them. They understand that power isn't in being heard all the time. It's in being heard at the right time. Silence creates dominance in conversations. The moment you stop talking, people feel the need to fill the space. They reveal more about themselves. They expose their thoughts, emotions, and weaknesses, while you remain in control. The one who speaks less observes more. The one who listens learns. And the one who stays silent until the right moment, that's the one who holds real power. Words lose value when they are used too often, but when words are rare, they become powerful. Psychologists have found that the human brain is wired to pay more attention to what is unexpected and scarce. That's why when someone who rarely speaks finally says something, everyone listens. Speaking with impact isn't about saying more. It's about saying the right thing at the right time. Great leaders, powerful thinkers, and respected individuals don't rush into conversations. They wait, they listen, they analyze, and when they do speak, every word has weight. But most people do the opposite. They flood conversations with words, thinking it makes them more influential. In reality, it makes them less respected. The more you talk, not every battle is worth fighting. Not every argument deserves a response. Sometimes, silence is the most powerful answer you can give. When emotions run high, most people react instantly. They argue, they defend, they try to prove a point. But in the heat of the moment, words are driven by emotion, not wisdom. And words spoken in anger often lead to regret. Psychologists call this emotional hijacking. When your emotions take control before logic can step in. That's why people who react immediately often say things they wish they could take back. But those who pause, those who stay silent in the moment of tension, they keep control. Silence does not mean weakness. It does not mean surrender. It means you refuse to be controlled by the situation. It forces the other person to face their own words. It makes them uncomfortable, uncertain, and often more willing to listen. Those who master silence in conflict win without fighting. They don't waste energy on pointless debates. They don't let anger control them. They stay calm, they observe, and when the time is right, they speak with precision and power. Because sometimes, the loudest message is saying nothing at all. Most people talk. Few actually communicate. Talking is easy. Anyone can do it. Words can be thrown around without thought, without depth, without meaning. But real communication is rare. It requires clarity, purpose, and most importantly, understanding. Many people speak just to be heard. They interrupt, they dominate conversations, they try to impress others with words. But here's the truth. People don't remember how much you talked. They remember how much you made them feel understood. Great communicators don't focus on speaking, they focus on listening. They read between the lines. They hear what isn't being said. They understand that sometimes the most powerful response isn't words, it's silence, attention, and presence. Psychologists have found that true influence comes not from talking more, but from listening better. People trust those who make them feel heard. They respect those who choose their words carefully. If you want to be truly influential, stop talking just for the sake of talking. Speak only when it adds value. Listen more than you speak, and when you do speak, make it count. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They wait for their turn to speak, formulating their response instead of truly hearing what's being said. But those who master the art of listening, they gain influence, trust, and wisdom. Psychologists have found that when people feel truly heard, they open up, they connect, and they trust more. That's why the best leaders, negotiators, and thinkers don't rush to speak. They let others talk first. They know that silence invites truth, and that listening reveals what words often hide. The secret is simple. When you listen, people respect your voice more. Instead of competing to be heard, you create space for others, and in return, your words gain more weight. But listening isn't just about hearing words. It's about reading emotions, understanding intentions, and noticing what's left unsaid. The person who listens sees what others miss. They control conversations without speaking much, and when they do speak, their words carry power. If you want to be respected, trusted, and truly influential, don't focus on talking more. Focus on listening better, because the one who listens the most controls the conversation. There is incredible strength in knowing when not to speak. Most people feel the need to fill every silence, explain themselves, or defend their opinion. But the truth is, not everything requires a response. Speaking out of impulse often leads to regret. When emotions take over, words slip out that can never be taken back. But those who master the discipline of silence, they stay in control. They don't allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent words. Psychologists call this response inhibition, the ability to pause, reflect, and choose words carefully instead of reacting immediately. People with strong response inhibition are seen as more composed, intelligent, and emotionally mature. They don't waste words. They don't engage in meaningless conversations. They don't let others pull them into unnecessary battles. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you refuse to play the game of meaningless words. It forces people to question their own thoughts instead of arguing with yours. It makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Before you speak, always ask yourself, will my words improve this situation, or will silence serve me better? If the answer isn't clear, choose silence, because the strongest voices are often the ones that don't speak at all. Every word you speak shapes your reality. Your words don't just affect others, they affect you. Psychologists have found that when you speak negatively, whether it's complaining, doubting yourself, or gossiping, you reinforce those thoughts in your subconscious mind. The more you say something, the more your brain believes it. If you constantly speak of failure, your mind prepares for failure. If you always say, I can't, your brain starts to believe you're incapable. Your words create the world you live in, but the opposite is also true. Speak with confidence, and your mind will start to believe in your strength. Speak with purpose, and your actions will follow. This is why silence is so powerful. It prevents you from feeding your mind with unnecessary negativity. Most people speak without realizing the damage they do to themselves. But those who guard their words, they guard their mindset. They refuse to give power to negativity. They understand that what they say today becomes the foundation of who they are tomorrow. Before you speak, ask yourself, are these words shaping me into the person I want to become? If not, stay silent. Because every word you speak is a seed planted in your mind, and whatever you plant, you will eventually grow. Self-control is one of the greatest indicators of success. The ability to control your emotions, reactions, and words separates those who lead from those who follow. But most people struggle with this. They react without thinking. They let anger, frustration, or insecurity dictate their words. And once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. Psychologists call this emotional regulation, the skill of managing emotions instead of being controlled by them. And one of the most effective ways to strengthen it? Silence. When you hold your tongue in moments of frustration, you train yourself to remain calm. When you resist the urge to defend yourself unnecessarily, you build inner strength. Every moment of silence is a moment of control. Control over your emotions, your reactions, and ultimately, your life. People who master silence don't waste energy on useless arguments. They don't let small things disturb their peace. They don't let others provoke them into losing their composure. And this is why they appear stronger, wiser, and more respected. Because while others are wasting energy on pointless words, they are conserving theirs for what truly matters. The average person speaks without thinking. They react. They ramble. They explain themselves too much. But those who understand the power of silence, they operate on a different level. Look at the most respected figures in history, the wisest leaders, the greatest minds, the most influential people. Well, they don't speak unless their words hold value. They don't waste time proving themselves. Their presence speaks louder than their words ever could. Psychologists call this the scarcity effect. When something is rare, it is perceived as more valuable. The less you speak, the more people listen when you finally do. Your words become meaningful. Your silence becomes a statement. Most people don't have the patience for this. They fear silence. They feel the need to explain, to justify, to always have something to say, but in doing so, they reveal too much, lose control, and weaken their presence. The extraordinary understand something simple. Power is in restraint. They don't give away their thoughts too easily. They don't react to every little thing. They let silence build their strength, their mystery, and their influence. And in the end, that's what separates them from everyone else. While others talk endlessly, they watch, they think, they wait. And when they do speak, the world listens. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion deserves a response. The more you engage in meaningless conversations, the more you drain yourself. Your energy is precious. Every word you speak requires mental effort. Every argument you engage in steals your focus. Every unnecessary conversation takes time you'll never get back. This is why silence is so powerful. It filters out the noise. It keeps you from wasting energy on things that don't matter. It helps you stay focused on what truly deserves your attention. Psychologists have found that people who conserve their words experience less stress, greater emotional stability, and a stronger sense of inner peace. They don't let small frustrations steal their energy. They don't engage in conflicts that lead nowhere. They choose where to invest their voice, and that choice gives them power. Most people react. They get pulled into gossip, arguments, and meaningless debates. But those who master silence, they stay above it all. They refuse to be drained by negativity. They protect their peace, their focus, and their power. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? If not, stay silent, because your words are an investment. Spend them wisely. Silence is not empty, it speaks volumes. It communicates confidence, wisdom, and strength without a single word. When you remain silent, you force others to pay attention, to think, to fill the gaps with their own thoughts. Your silence makes them uncomfortable, reflective, and sometimes even respectful. Psychologists refer to this as the power of pause. When used correctly, silence can command a room more effectively than shouting ever could. It forces people to process what has already been said instead of drowning in endless noise. In moments of doubt, silence shows confidence. In moments of conflict, silence shows control. In moments of deep thought, silence shows wisdom. Most people try to prove themselves by speaking more, explaining more, defending more, but those who understand the power of silence don't need to prove anything. Their presence alone is enough. Let silence work for you. Let it create impact. Let it command respect. Let it separate you from the noise of the world. Because in a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the one who speaks the least is often the one who holds the most power. Silence is powerful, but it doesn't mean you should never speak. The key is knowing when your words are truly needed. Speak when your words can uplift, guide, or bring clarity. Speak when silence would create confusion instead of wisdom. Speak when your voice carries value. Not when your emotions demand a reaction, but in all other moments choose silence. Silence when others expect a response. Silence when anger tempts you to react. Silence when your words would only add to the noise. The greatest minds in history were not those who talked the most, but those who spoke with purpose. Every word had weight, every sentence carried meaning, and when they spoke, the world listened. Master this balance, and you will command attention without chasing it. You will gain respect without demanding it. You will speak only when your words are better than your silence. And when you do, your voice will echo far beyond the noise of those who never learned when to say silent.